All right, let's jump right into this explainer of a wildly intense sci-fi scenario from the year 2148. Today, we're going to unpack the dense, real-world physics embedded within an incredibly high-stakes combat sequence. Because what we're really looking at here is a brilliant case study in how applied science and mechanical engineering can completely dismantle what looks like an impossible, insurmountable biological threat. Now, the wildest part about this entire confrontation, where 16,000 captives are saved from a massive, terrifying biological anomaly, is that the whole thing lasted exactly 20 seconds. 20 seconds? That's literally less time than it takes to heat up a burrito in the microwave. We aren't talking about some drawn-out, hours-long battle of attrition here. No, we are looking at a hyper-condensed window where every single millisecond and every single application of physics meant the difference between life and death. So how exactly does human intellect and physics defeat raw biological power in just 20 seconds? It's the ultimate David versus Goliath setup, and we're going to break it down millisecond by millisecond. Because when you're up against a creature that vastly outmatches you in size, strength, and raw biological power, the answer isn't just to bring a bigger weapon. The answer is superior understanding. Let's dive into exactly how biophysicist Dr. Arav Sen pulled this off.
Part 1. The Bioelectric Anomaly.
Let's set the stage with our terrifying threat, known as Gravex. We're dealing with a biological anomaly lurking deep beneath a tectonic valley. This thing relies on raw brute force, ultra-dense muscle fibers, and highly disruptive neural attacks. Obviously, Dr. Sen knows he can't win a purely physical wrestling match against something this dense and powerful. There's just no way. Instead, he brings calculated, precise mechanical engineering to the table. He's got to rely on his biophysics background to out-engineer the beast.
Moving into Part 2, Engineering the Exosuit. To even stand a chance here, Arav designed a powered exosuit built strictly on real, grounded mechanical principles. He's not using magical sci-fi force fields. He's actually using flywheel energy storage to manage massive power spikes. He's got electroactive actuators to mimic and amplify muscle movement, thermal regulation to keep the whole thing from melting down, and crucially, as we're going to see in a second, high-friction adaptive soles to prepare for the crazy kinetic forces he's about to face. Every single component has a strict functional purpose rooted in real-world physics.
Now check out this absolutely wild 20-second timeline. We're going to freeze frame at each of these major beats to unpack the exact science keeping Arav alive, from the very first strike at second 1 all the way to complete neutralization at second 20.
Part 3. Phase canceling the infrasound attack. All right, second number 1. The clock starts the moment Gravex senses Arav's ground vibrations and launches its first offensive. This creature has a biological resonance chamber that generates terrifying infrasound waves. We're talking sound waves operating below 20 Hz. You might not always hear them, but oh man, you definitely feel them. Gravex uses these specific low-frequency waves to instantly paralyze its prey by physically disrupting their brain waves and neural signals. If Arav takes this hit directly, the fight is over before it even begins. But Arav totally saw this coming. He leans into acoustic physics. His exosuit rapidly analyzes the incoming wave and blasts out exact inverse frequencies. It's basically like the active noise cancellation in your high-end headphones, but scaled up to protect your central nervous system. By perfectly mirroring and inverting the wave, the frequencies phase cancel each other out. His neural pathways stay intact, and he stays in the fight. Absolutely brilliant.
Which brings us to Part 4, Redirecting 10,000 newtons.
Okay, the clock hits 5 seconds. Gravex figures out the sonic attack was a bust and just physically lunges with a force exceeding 10,000 newtons. If Arav tries to block that directly, bone shattered, suit crushed, game over. Instead, he uses those high-friction adaptive soles we talked about. He plants his feet, uses ground friction as an anchor, and completely rotates his body. He essentially plays Matador, brilliantly converting the creature's massive linear momentum into angular motion, letting the beast's own kinetic energy carry it right past him.
Part 5. The Science of the Strike. 10 seconds in, Arav doesn't just dodge and run. He uses all that redirected momentum to launch a devastating counterattack. He executes the anatomy of a perfect kinetic chain. Power initiates from his base with a hip rotation, right? That energy transfers up through his torso, compounding in force until finally his arm snaps forward. And because the electroactive actuators in his suit are amplifying his joint torque at every single stage, his fist becomes an absolute missile by the time it reaches the target. It all boils down to that classic physics equation. Pressure equals force divided by area. By delivering this strike in under 10 milliseconds and concentrating all of that amplified force onto a tiny surface area, he maximizes the pressure. Boom! He targets Gravex's biological resonance chamber directly, heavily destabilizing the exact organ responsible for its most dangerous attacks.
Part 6. Neutralization through understanding.
Now we're at the 15-second mark. The creature is literally staggering. Its internal oscillation is completely irregular, and Gravex frantically tries to spin up another infrasound wave, but Arav reads that irregular vibration and times a second physical strike using destructive interference. He hits the chamber so perfectly that it matches the compromised vibration phase, physically shattering the structural stability of the creature's resonance chamber from the inside out.
And now for the finisher. Right at 20 seconds, Arav deploys an electromagnetic stabilizer. Now, this isn't some crazy lethal explosive. It's actually a device tuned exactly to Gravex's unique neural frequency. It emits controlled pulses that synchronize with and gently suppress the creature's unstable bioelectric activity. It essentially puts the system to sleep safely.
And just like that, the 20-second fight is over. Gravex drops alive but totally neutralized. With the massive threat out of the way, Arav reaches the underground geothermal habitat. He frees the 16,000 female captives who were tragically being used to stabilize Gravex's failing bioelectric systems. Plus, the incredibly vital closed-loop oxygen and water systems keeping them all alive are successfully secured.
This brings us to the absolute best takeaway from this whole scenario. Science did not overpower the creature. It understood and stopped it. Arav didn't win because he had bigger muscles. He won because he understood acoustics, ground friction, kinetic chains, and destructive interference. Pure intellect and applied physics absolutely triumphed over blind, destructive brute force.
So it really leaves us wondering, how can we apply this exact philosophy using deep scientific understanding and intellect over brute force to tackle the massive, seemingly unstoppable Goliath problems we face in our own world today? Whether we're talking about huge technological hurdles or massive ecological crises, maybe the real answer isn't fighting harder, but understanding deeper. Think about that for a bit, keep questioning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.